Probably the best thing that you can do for your investing is to learn how to cope with Mr. Market. While everybody else is being Mr. Market, you need to be better than that. Don't be Mr. Market. Instead, learn how to deal and cope with Mr. Market, and this will be the best investing skill that you can ever acquire that will make you the biggest amount of money that you even thought was possible. If you are new to this channel, my name is Mariusz Skonieczny. I run Microcap Explosions, a private membership website focused on microcap stocks which are hated and ignored by the investment community. I also wrote about 10 books on investing, one of which is available for a free download at microcapexplosions.com. Who is Mr. Market? If you own a stock in a business, you become a partner in that business. So imagine you and a fellow named Mr. Market, you own a business together, 50-50 partners. Now, the problem with Mr. Market is that Mr. Market is bipolar. He's manic depressive. Sometimes he's very, very happy and optimistic about the business that you own with him, the economy surrounding that business, and everything is colorful and wonderful. And then on other days, Mr. Market is extremely unhappy and depressed about everything, about the employees that you have, about how much business you're generating, about your clients, about whether your business will survive. He's worried about the economy, the market crash, what the Fed is going to do with interest rates. I mean, he's so depressed, he's literally crying. You couldn't meet a more happy fellow. And during his happy hours or during his happy months, he is willing to value the business that you and him own together at very high prices. And when he's unhappy, he doesn't want to be part of that business. So he's valuing that business at very low. And another interesting thing about Mr. Market is that he comes and knocks on your door, as a good partner he is. He knocks on your door, and every day he expresses his opinion or his happiness or unhappiness about the business, and he wants to either buy your interest in the business that you own together, or he wants to sell you his interest. Now, if he's happy and he's optimistic, do you think he is more willing to buy your interest or sell you his interest at a high price or at a low price? I think you know the answer to this. When he's super happy, then he's willing to pay or accept happy prices. When he is depressed and crying, he's not going to offer you a good price for your portion of the business, and he's not going to value his portion very high either. So, as an investor, today is a perfect example of how we should be treating Mr. Market. Here's some options that you can do that are not so good for you when Mr. Market shows up in the mood that he's showing up right now, which is very manic depressive today. Number one, you can listen to him and you can get depressed with him. And number two, you can cry together and you can complain about all the things that are wrong with the world and your business, of course, too. And number three, because of your depression and your bad mood and your crying, you can sell your business interest to him at a very depressed and unhappy price. And here's some couple things that you can do that are actually very good for you. Number one, you can ignore him. You can let him knock on your door, you can open the door, you can say, thank you for coming today, but I'm going to choose to ignore you today. He's not gonna mind, because he's gonna come back tomorrow and he's not even gonna remember that you ignored him. Number two, you can actually exploit him. If he shows up very depressed about everything, it's very likely that he will sell you his portion of the business for a very low price. It's okay for you to exploit him. He's not going to remember. He's going to come back the next day and he's not going to remember that you exploited him. If he shows up very happy, you can do the same thing. You can ignore him. You don't have to buy his interest for a happy price. You don't even have to sell your interest to him at a happy price. You can just ignore him. But if you want to, again, exploit him when he's super happy, then you can, of course, sell him your interest to him for a very happy price. I would not suggest for you to buy his interest at a happy price when he's super happy. Most people are Mr. Market. Most people don't know how to deal with Mr. Market, even if they know that Mr. Market exists. They get depressed with Mr. Market, they get happy with Mr. Market, or they become Mr. Market. Now, if you want to be successful in this game long term, I suggest you realize, number one, the Mr. Market is here to stay. He's never going to disappear. Every day he will come and knock on your door. Whether you like it or not, he will be back the next day. Mr. Market will always be bipolar and manic depressive. He will never get a handle on his behavior. He will always act like this. Therefore, number three, learn how to cope with him. Learn how to interact with him. Don't get depressed with him. Don't get happy with him. Just realize that's how he is. And you realize that he will be back the next day. And now, I'm not saying you don't need to listen to him. Some of the things that he says are correct. However, how are those things that he's saying is going to impact the business that you own? If you listen to me for a while, you know that you should own businesses that are good. You should own businesses that you don't overpay for. And now if you do that and Mr. Market shows up very depressed, you're going to be very likely be able to just sit back and relax, listen and ignore him, instead of buying interest in businesses when Mr. Market is very happy, overpaying for these businesses, and then when Mr. Market comes back 2 weeks later very depressed, realize that you overpaid for those businesses and Mr. Market is right. And now Mr. Market is worried about the overvaluation of some of the growth stocks that you bought. But if you pay attention to valuations, if you pay attention to businesses, then you are more likely to be able to handle Mr. Market the right way, which is ignore him or exploit him. These are the only two options. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this content, and I hope as a result of your enjoyment, you will choose to subscribe to this channel, like the video, comment on the video, and maybe share the video so that we can help this channel grow together. Thanks for watching.